One. Welcome to Blindside Sports. This is episode number 13. I'm very excited to have the guy on that I'm having today. My guy, one of my inspirations. I know he's hating this. I know he's probably cringing. Jonas Knox at the Jonas Knox on Twitter joining us today. Jonas, what's up, man?
Hey, I appreciate you having me, Emmett. It's pretty cool to be able to come on and be a part of this. And anytime I get asked to do this stuff, I don't know why the hell you would want to talk to me, but I listen. I really do appreciate your time and wanting to chat, and let's have some fun, man.
Let's do this. So we're going to first start by diving into a story and talking about some people he's worked with. Jonas, quickly explain or take your time, however, whatever. How did you get involved at Fox Sports Radio, and who are some people who helped you, and what was your biggest contributor to getting to Fox?
So I had been trying to, I'm from LA, obviously. I've been trying to get into radio locally in LA because it was, so much easier. So I thought, because I was, from here, and I figured, all right, well, if I don't have to leave, that would be ideal. That would be perfect. But I just couldn't get anybody to contact me. I didn't have any connections. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have anybody inside a building somewhere. I wasn't related to anybody. I knew nobody. So it was really starting from the ground up. And I tried everything. I couldn't get anybody to respond, anybody to get back to me. Finally got hired full time because I delivered my resume in person to a station in Charleston, South Carolina called WSPO. I was there less than a year. The station folded up. I came back. I was broke. I was desperate. I was trying everything. I mean, for years I've been trying. Ended up through going to visit my former co-host who is now working in Denver. I ended up meeting his new co-host who had a relationship with Don Martin from AM 570 LA Sports and Fox Sports
The
Radio.
blowtorch, as you
And
say.
yeah, the blowtorch. And I ended up getting a sit-down meeting with Don Martin and Annie Zadarovich. And the whole thing was crazy because I'm from LA, but I had to go to Charleston, back home, then to Denver just to get a meeting with somebody in LA. And I'm from LA. But
Wow.
that's the business. It's just it's weird because I didn't know anybody. It was all trying to make my own connections and do stuff on my own. And it was difficult to do. It was hard. So I ended up getting this sit down with Don and Annie Zadarovich, and I said, look, I don't want to take anybody's job. That's disrespectful. I'm not here to try and say I'm better than anybody else, but I don't care what it is. If there's ever an opportunity for a position, even at the bottom of the level, like I'll take it. I don't care. I'm not too proud. I'm not too good for it. I'll take anything. I don't care. And they said, okay, well, we appreciate you coming in. And I thought, at least, you know what? I got to sit down with people locally. And if nothing ends up happening from it and my career dies right now, then at least I know I at least had a conversation. And about a week later, Annie called me and said, so you'll do anything, huh? And I was like, yes, ma'am, I'll do whatever it takes. I'm not too good for anything. She goes, okay, well, I have a weekend overnight editing position.
Oh,
It's part-time. I can only pay you a certain amount of money, which the little amount that they were paying was so much more than I was making in Charleston that I
wow.
was blown away because you just like you're making pennies when you're starting in radio for a long time to
Oh,
try
yeah.
and make ends meet. And so I said, I'll take it. I came in and I started working weekends on this, editing shift. And she told me, she said, I'll never forget this. She said to me, she goes, you realize this is a major step down from what you were doing. You were on air. You were doing a morning show. You were doing anchoring and producing and all these other things. Like, just think about it like this. If there are 12 men on a team, this is like the 12th spot. Like, you're at the very bottom. And I told her, I was like, I
Wow.
don't care. I'll take anything. I will take anything. Because she didn't want my expectations to be too lofty. And I just told her, I'm not looking to get on the air. I'm not looking to do anything. I just need a job. Like, and the way I've always felt is it's better to have 1 foot in than 2 feet out. And so I was still working side job. I mean, for years at Fox Sports Radio, up until God, 4 or 5 years ago, I was still working side jobs. I would recycle cans on the side to make ends meet. I would, I helped, my brother, remodel and do demo work at his place. I did telemarketing. I got, I did, worked. I would sleep in my car and then go to a job in the afternoon
That is
after I would get
insane.
done. And then I would go back and I would do security at my brother's bar later at night and then come back in and produce the next day. I was doing anything just to try and scramble and make ends meet. But the way I looked at it was I'm cool with it because at least I've got a foot in. And you know, I think the one thing, not that you asked me this, but the one thing that I see from a lot of people nowadays is that they want it right now. It's got to be right now. And if they don't see results right now,
I know that one. Yeah. Trust
they
me.
got to bail. And to me, I'm a little old school in the sense that, you know, my parents, we didn't come from money. We didn't come from a whole lot. And so we always had to work. We always had to have jobs. I never got an allowance a day in my life because there wasn't that sort of money going around. And so I looked at it and I told Don and Annie this the day I started. In the meeting, I said, if you guys hire me, I will never call in sick. I promise you, you have my word, I will never call in sick. And to this day, I've been there well over a decade. I've never called in sick, not one time, because I wanted to keep my promise to them because I was so appreciative and grateful for the opportunity.
That's insane. I respect that a lot, Jonas. And like a lot of people now, like I know I fall in the younger crowd, but hearing your story kind of makes me think, you know, how tough it is going to be for me to get into the business. And I just respect the motivation, man. Like it's really cool to see. Now, I believe it was 20.
Let me just tell you this though. All right, and sorry to interrupt, but let me just tell you this.
Yep.
Anything that you want to do is going to be difficult. I mean,
for sure. I agree.
It comes with the sacrifice, but you just like the one piece of advice. I tell this to, you know, any producers, anybody that's ever come into Fox Sports Radio that hits me up for advice, like what can I do? I just tell them, say yes to everything.
Yep.
Like say yes to everything, because even if it's the most minuscule job in radio, even if it's, you know, running to get coffee or whatever, you know, whatever the job is, editing, like don't be too good for it. Don't be too proud for it, or proud of it. Like look at it as an opportunity, because a couple of things are going to happen. One of two things are going to happen, maybe both. Either you're going to start doing it, and whatever you're doing in that current capacity is going to come in handy down the road. And it really does. I can remember being at Charleston. I'm cutting up commercials for, you know, a place called Color Time Custom Wheels. The hell do I know about cars? I don't know anything about cars. Like I literally know nothing about, I'm not a gearhead. I have no idea anything about cars. And I remember thinking to myself in the studio, voicing it, editing it, putting the imaging together and being like, why am I doing, like, I wanted to be but guess what? Then all of a sudden I got to Fox and I had to start putting together best of shows or produce and edit and do all these things. And all of that experience I had on Adobe Audition and on Next Gen and all that opened up doors and helped me understand that side of it. And I'm so grateful and appreciative for it. So if you take a job, it might seem small, but bust your ass, work as hard as you can, have pride in it, man. Be proud of what it is that you do, knowing that there's an ultimate goal. There's a place you want to get to, but in the meantime, try and enjoy it and work really, really hard at it and try and get great at that opportunity. And a guy that was my mentor, Jeff Biggs, who's one of the best people in the business, he told me, he said, get good at everything, learn everything. Learn how to edit, learn how to produce, learn how to be an anchor, learn how to be a host, because it's easier for you to find jobs later when you don't just focus on one thing and you don't throw all your eggs into one basket. So if you take a small job and you're looking at it like, oh, listen, this isn't ideal and the pay isn't good, I got news for you. The pay is not good for a long, long time in radio. I ask a lot of people, but understand that the juice is worth the squeeze. That you swing the axe and eventually the tree is going to fall down. And it's just a test of wills. So you take the job, you get as good as you can at it, you take something from that job, and worst case scenario, the other thing that happens, you end up networking while you're there and meeting people, and those doors open up other doors to other opportunities. So never be too proud. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult, just like anything in life is. But look at you, man. You got your own thing going. You're a grinder. I can already tell that. You're professional. You're getting links together and putting stuff together and and that's why I appreciate you even asking me to come on, because man, it's difficult when you're trying to get in because you don't want to feel like you're bothering somebody. You don't want to feel like but I can tell you this personally. I think it's awesome what you're doing. I think you should be damn proud of it. And there's a lot of people who don't put in half the effort, who care half as much about what it is that you're doing and what you're trying to pursue. And to me, you can say I'm an inspiration to you. This stuff inspires me, man, seeing how hard you're hustling. So I think it's awesome.
Thank you, Jonas. That really means something. And speaking of hustling, why don't we go over to your weekend overnight show real quick? Jonas Knox joined me at the Jonas Knox on Twitter. Get me at EmmettNoC04. When you went into the Fox Sports Radio studios for the first time in 2015 or 2014, whenever you got hired for the overnight show, what were your emotions like? Were you nervous, excited, happy? And how did you think your first show went?
So I knew that I wanted to throw my name in the hat because I never thought that I was ever going to be a host. That wasn't my goal. Like a lot of people think like, oh, it was some strategic plan to start here and then, get to this certain place and then get to over. There was no strategic plan. I didn't have any plan. I just wanted a job. Like I was dead broke. I had no options. And even if I was only ever going to be part-time, at least I could say, you know what? I was part-time in radio. It sucked having to go do telemarketing. It sucked having to go, wash dishes or do whatever I needed to do to try and make ends meet on the side or do security or bouncing or any of that stuff. But I just thought if I could just get in part-time, at least part of the time I could really enjoy my work life. That's just the way I looked at it. And so when I got the itch all of a sudden again, years later, to want to be on the air. And I'd been producing and I'd been, and a lot of people think was a producer and became a host only at Fox. I was a host and doing on-air stuff well before any of that. I had to learn how to produce, which is why I'm a terrible producer. I was a horrible guest booker because I got too much of a hothead. And when somebody would be disrespectful in a text message or on the phone, I'd get into an argument with them. So just terrible producers. It's not recommended at all. You got to be a little bit
Rob
patient.
Parker. No.
I don't have patience for people that are disrespectful and think that you're being annoying by asking them to be a guest. I think that's
Agreed.
ridiculous. And so I couldn't handle that side of it. But then I started getting the itch. Dan Byer was tremendous in
I
letting
love Dan
me.
Byer. John Ramos
He's
show.
awesome. Yeah, and he let me do some update anchor shifts. And I told him, and I remember coming in and sitting with Dan after I would leave my other job. He would be working in the late afternoons. And I remember sitting in with him saying, hey, I did updates when I was in Charleston. I did updates out there, but show me how you do it because you're the best. Like, I want to learn from you. I never wanted to pretend like I knew everything. And so I learned from the bottom up there, and Dan gave me opportunities. And I always told him like, hey, if you ever need anybody, like I'm willing to work. I'll work any day, any hour, any holiday. I don't care, anything. And then once I started doing that, I was doing stuff on the overnight, stuff on the weekends. And I just started getting this itch. Like, I wonder if I did dip my toe into hosting again, how it would go. And I just sort of threw something at Scott Shapiro. I expected him to laugh at me. And he wrote back and said, not bad, send me over something else. And I was like, oh boy, well, that sucked. And I remember sending the first demo to Andy Furman, who him and Mike North are a couple of my mentors as well. And a couple
Andy.
of my great friends
yep.
in radio. And there's certain times when people say things to you that stop you dead in your tracks. And you go, damn, why didn't I think of that? And I still remember this. It's the smallest thing, but I still remember this. I sent my first little demo, this little 4 or 5 minute thing that I did at Fox Sports Radio. I sent it over to Andy and said, hey, I threw this to Scott, but I don't know, tell me what you think. And Andy said, well, I can tell you right off the bat what you did wrong. And I was like, what's that? He goes, you open up the show and you gave out the phone number and your Twitter handle, and then you got into everything. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm trying to set the table. He goes, why do I need your contact information if you haven't given me any reason to contact you? And I said,
I could just hear him saying that too. He'd probably say a bunch of aggression and fire.
What? Of course.
You need your contact. No one can talk to you.
And it stopped me dead in my tracks. And I remembered from that day, God, he's right. If I don't give somebody something to react to, why would they ever react? And so then I remember sending the second version in, changing that, Scott listened to it, not hearing anything back. And I think he hit me up not long afterwards, maybe a week or so after that, and just said, "Hey, I got your demo. So here's what I'm thinking. Are you up for filling in? Somebody's going to be out this weekend. Are you up for doing the weekend overnight show?" And I was like, "Wait, what?" And I said, "Yeah." And I remember coming inside and telling my mom, who's, my best friend in the whole world, my hero in everything in life. And I remember her, because she was sick, but I remember her at the time. Sorry, I get a little emotional about this stuff still
Hey,
for some
man,
reason. I don't know why.
it's understood.
Yeah,
Some
but
other.
but I remember telling her, and I just remember even in her, diminishing capacity, she was starting to head down that road, that she was so excited, because she was why I fell in love with radio to begin with. And so, yeah, we were really happy, man. And then I came in and did the first show. I'm pretty sure it was terrible, but it was 4 hours. It was by myself, no guest. At that time of night, no guest, no nothing. And getting to do that show, and then ultimately getting to do that show on a permanent basis, completely fast tracked me, because it's sink or swim. You can't just book a bunch of guests to fill up time. You can't just take a bunch of calls. I wanted to learn the hard way. I didn't want to have to rely on just calls. I didn't want to have to rely on a bunch of guests. Like, I wanted to learn how to build shows and build shows, and you just get after it. And sooner or later you find your voice, and you start finding what your rhythm is, and what your timing is. And once you get to that point, then you start feeling more confident and more comfortable, and it just sort of, goes from there. So that was really the beginning of it all.
Yeah, Jonas, that was super. It was super cool to kind of get the point of view on that one. And another overnight question that I want to ask you about Rob Parker and Andy Furman. What was the craziest call you think you've ever taken on the overnights? Like, the one a couple weeks ago on Pro Wrestler Porn Star, where that guy was like smoking, like on
Yeah.
that
There,
was he in like Denver? Like,
yeah, there's been some wild ones. See, the problem is, like on Maller's show, like Ben, and by the way, Ben Maller,
I love Ben.
he
I'm getting
never
him on
he
it
never
any time.
he never gets the credit he deserves for how great he is. He is fantastic. And it's like one of those things. I remember being in acting class years and years ago, and I remember them telling me, there's the big time actors who get all the love, but if you're an actor's actor, Gary Oldman's the guy. Like, I remember them telling me, like, Gary Oldman can play any role. He's the guy. If you're a sports talk radio host, there's the bigger names that a lot of people like will look at, as far as, and by big I mean not more talented by any stretch, but just the names that people think of that are on the top 10 list or top 20 list. But if you listen to sports talk radio, you hear Ben Maller and you go, that's that guy. That's the stuff I grew up
Ben
on.
Maller.
Guys like him, Tony Bruno, like all the Arnie Spanier, Andy Furman, Mike North. Like, if you're a hardcore radio guy first, like I am and like Ben is, that's the group you ultimately aspire to be in. Like that to me is the cool crowd. Like I love all those guys. I've always, I grew up on them. And so you start hearing Ben's show during the week, and I go, well, he's taking a lot of calls. And then you start to realize I can't do the same thing that he does, because A, I'm not as good as him, and B, the people are hammered. They're hammered. So I can't trust that I'm going to take a call from somebody and they're going to be sober enough to be able to, get through a call and not get us, thrown off the air or get us in trouble. I mean, we've had, I can remember we had on Pro Wrestler or Porn Star, we had two Mormons play against each other. That was a lot of fun. We had a cop. I think we had two cops.
I think I remember the cop on one. That was recent, right?
Yeah, well, there was one a few years ago where it might have been a cop and a fireman that played against each other. It might have been a cop from one department and another cop from another state. But there's been some crazy calls. People have fallen asleep on the air, like they're on hold. They're so bombed they fall asleep. And then there's the people who don't realize they're on the air and they're talking to me. So I throw to them again 2 or 3 times to make it seem like, I'm the call screener
Oh
trying to get
yeah.
away. Yeah.
And,
The whole thing
you
is
another a call that happened came into my head that like a couple like I think it was about a year ago. It was in the middle of like peak quarantine where you took a call. I remember this guy's name, NASCAR George in South Carolina, and Bershinger was in the back, and it was Bershinger and Chris. They were back there, and he was going on such a rampage and such like a lunatic rant where you had to put this guy on hold. You did the thing where you like Bersh, put him on the air, and he's like, "You want to speak to Jonas?" He's like, "Yeah." And you put him on the air, and he goes on like a
yeah.
7-minute rant during Guess That Garbage. That one sticks out to me.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta let that stuff fly. Like you gotta
It
like
was so
because
funny.
I mean, and also, I think that I think our job as sports talk hosts isn't to be right. Like I legitimately I remember having a conversation with Brady Quinn about this, and he was
I
like,
love Brady.
he's like, you realize like a lot of the picks you give out, the bets you give out are wrong. And I said, I don't
Trust me,
care.
I know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I don't care. He goes, why not? I was like, it's more entertaining. It's better for
I
the show if I'm
agree.
wrong. I'm like, I don't have an ego. I don't care if like I see the stuff people tweet. I don't care. Like, hey, you got this pick wrong. No, I didn't. I'll just lie about it. Like, well, there's like this is Andy Furman said it best one time. He's all, this is professional wrestling. Like this is supposed to be fun. Like this isn't supposed to. You're going to tune in, and I'm going to tell you why I know more than you do. I have opinions. I have very strong opinions. I feel certain ways about certain things. A lot of the time, it pisses people off. I don't care because I don't care if anybody likes me. I legitimately don't. I'm not trying to make a bunch of friends, but ultimately, when it's all said and done, I just want somebody to be able to turn on a show. And if they've got other problems in their life, just at least forget about them for that little bit of time. Because I remember what it was like on both sides. I remember what it was like when I had problems and I could turn on a sports talk radio show and everything else would disappear. Or I could turn on music and everything else could disappear, at least for a few minutes. I wasn't so hung up on all the other stuff I had going on. I could actually just enjoy and laugh and smile. If I was driving to a job I didn't like that much, being able to listen to a morning show, a sports talk radio morning show, and then be able to just forget about things for a while on my commute there. I always remember that. And I remember, in times since I've been in radio, being able to come in and get away from all the other stuff I had going on in my personal life and the heartbreak and things that I was dealing with, and being able to just do the show and try and have fun that way. This stuff's fun, man. We're not, I tell people this all the time. In the backyard of life, we're the pile of dog crap in the corner. All right. We're not saving lives. We're not, first responders. We're not returning from war. We're not like, we're talking sports and playing grab ass on the radio. Appreciate the opportunity, be grateful for the opportunity, and be grateful that anybody takes time out of their day to listen. And as long as they're having a good time, that's all I care about.
Oh, I agree with that. Now, a couple more questions here. I know we're, run short on time, but Rob Parker,
Okay.
I have to ask Rob Parker questions because I love Rob Parker, Tom Brady. How did you and Rob Parker get that bond where it seemed like the first time you guys went on air, you were just boys? Like how'd that come apart or come up? Yeah.
There are certain people that for whatever reason, you just have an instant chemistry with. I don't know why. I was like that with Brady.
Yep. And even LaVar too.
Yeah, like it's just certain people you get on the air and you have a chemistry with. And Rob and I remember the first show we did together. Chris Broussard was out. Scott asked me if I wanted to work with Rob, and I remember I was going on a rare vacation. I don't take a lot of those, and I was going on a rare vacation, and so I wanted to work as much as I could because I was trying to save money, but I was leaving the next day to go to Hawaii. Never been to Hawaii. My fiance at the time, or girlfriend at the time, now wife, we had saved up a bunch of money. I mean, saved up, scrambled, like tried to get a bunch cash together as much as we could because we really wanted to go to Hawaii. And I remember thinking, all right, I have an early flight the next day, but yeah, I'll work with Rob. Like, why not? I mean, like, listen, I need whatever I can take right now. I'll take it. And Rob and I started doing the show, and we had so much fun because we're on the same page. It's we don't care if we're right. All right, he cares a little bit more than I
Oh
definitely more
yeah,
than I.
he definitely will brag when like the Tom Brady thing comes. He's
Oh,
go,
100%.
I was right,
A
Chris.
hundred, a 100%. Stop it. 100%. But we
Someone.
started, but we started working, and I just knew immediately. All right, we're gonna be good because
Oh yeah,
he know
it's so fun.
he knows I'm not sensitive, so he can go places, and I know he's not sensitive, and I can go places, and it became us ball busting each other and mocking callers or people that were calling in and literally just goofing around. And it was an August show. There wasn't much going on. There was a little bit of baseball, but it really like there was nothing real. I think it was in August, or it might have been like late. There wasn't really much going on. And I just remember Scott Shapiro sending me a text after the show was over and saying, I cannot believe how good you guys were together. He's all that you guys have never worked together. I was like, yeah, I had no idea. And from that day forward, anytime there's an opportunity to work with him, I
Dude, I
jump
hope
at
you
it.
do it. I love that partnership is so fun, man.
It's one of those things, and we would get to break. Like it's still one of my favorite shows I've ever done. When him and I were working together, I think it was the Black Friday after Thanksgiving, which just gives him an opportunity, and I always tee him up for his Black
Rob
Friday
Parker.
jokes. He's got his all, it's Black Friday for you, but you know what Black Friday is for me? Every Friday. And so it's just we just tee each other up with stuff like that. But I remember it was when Phil
Is this a
Mickelson
Steve
and
DeSager story?
Phil Mickelson and Tiger Woods were doing like their shootout or whatever it was in Vegas where they were golfing. It was like this one-off game on Black Friday, whatever it was. And I remember Ralph Irvin was the update anchor. And Rob and I made a couple of jokes about how lame the game was. Like it was like, why are these guys playing? Like it's going to be dark soon. What's going on? And we could tell it was bothering Ralph.
Oh,
And so, and
Ralph, you
so,
can tell it's so obvious.
and so I told Rob during the break, I was like, hey man, well, let's step on the gas. And so for the remainder of the show, all we did was bag on that golf tournament. And Ralph came in every break pissed off because we were doing everything from like,
Wreck It Ralph.
update from the match between Tiger and Phil Mickelson. There's a guy in a unicycle juggling and the eighth hole now. Or is that it? Like we literally buried it the entire, and him and I were laughing so hard. And even when we're arguing or disagreeing, we'll go to break, and him and I are laughing so hard because that's what this all is. Like we're supposed to be doing that. We're supposed to be having a good time through all this. And that's just he's one of those guys who's got the same thought about all of it that I do, and we always have a good time.
I remember the Steve DeSager story happened when you were there when he was like, I ain't paying for that.
Oh yeah, that was by the way, DeSager, best update anchor I've ever heard in my life.
I love, dude.
There's nobody even close.
Yeah, I agree. And another show you were on was right before you got hired with my guys Brady and LaVar. You were on the show, and Rob Parker goes on his Twitter and just rips this restaurant for not having Splenda as a sweetener. He absolutely tears into him. And then you were in Friday, Monday. You come back Monday, and I see this tweet from Rob Parker saying Splenda sent him a bunch of Splenda swag and a bunch of Splenda. He's so like the way Rob Parker pulls like his shenanigans is so great. He's one of the all-time greats, and he's super funny, and like that's the funny thing with him and Chris is they're odd. They're way different, and that's what makes it good.
Yeah, it's and I miss those guys because when I was doing the Vegas show, and I would see them at like when they would come in afterwards. So I would see Chris and Rob, and both those guys were so gracious to me. Rob Guerra, Alex Teicher, like all those guys were so gracious and kind to me to even let me be a part of their show because they have their own thing going on, man, and they're successful and they're one of the best shows in the country for a reason. And then to even welcome me in as the side piece, quote unquote, and to get to be a part of that. Even, at Super Bowl in Miami, they let me sit up on the stage with them, which, it's just, for somebody who wanted to do this his whole life was, dream come true for me. So yeah, it's been a crazy fun ride with a lot of really great people that work there. And I say this every chance I get. It's the people behind the scenes. It's the editors. It's the producers. It's the anchors. They don't get nearly enough credit for the job they do. If not for them, we'd all sound like horses' asses. I mean,
True.
that's the bottom line. They get us in and out of breaks. They keep us on time. They keep us on point. They deserve the credit. They're the pilots. We're simply the unruly passengers who are like drinking too much in the back of the plane, and they're trying not to crash. So yeah, I always appreciate those guys.
Yeah, man, they do a great job. And speaking of clock, how much time you got left, Jonas?
I got I got about 5 minutes,
All
maybe
right, man.
about 5 minutes, if that's cool.
All right, one last question then.
Sure.
When you got hired with Brady, LaVar, Jonas, Lap, Roberto, Eddie, all those guys, and you got moved to the morning show, how did that make you feel? And like, what were you like? What was your reaction? And what did did you do anything special to celebrate? I have to know.
Um, Honestly, I cried my eyes out.
Don't blame you.
I sobbed uncontrollably, just because I don't think that I could ever people that are close to me there, and people that are close to me in my life, and I'm a very private person. I don't like to go on social media all that much. I'm just not really into it. I like privacy, but they know sort of what was also going on at the time that the show was being announced. With my mom, and so damn man, I just can't get through this. So they, yeah, I just the journey. Like I can't possibly convey or message how difficult it has been. Like it is. Like there were so many times I just thought that was it. Like I was never going to get a chance, and I would just became resigned to the fact that I was going to get blown off for job interviews like I did. I was going to, get my hopes up and not get anything. I just assumed I was never going to get my chance. And then to get a call, and be told, hey, it happened. I just completely melted. I didn't say anything. And then I just broke down. I was crying because I thought about the
Wow.
journey. And then I thought about everything that I had, gone through to even get the opportunity. And then I thought about my mama, because she was always my reason for doing all of this. And so to be able to share that with her, even though she was so far down the road of her disease and her struggle, to be able to share that moment with her. I was always in this race against time. Like I was always racing to try and get to this point because I wanted her to know that we did it. She didn't get to do a lot of stuff on her own. She didn't get to do much on her own, and she was dealt a really bad break in life. And to be able to do that for her in honor of her, and then to be able to come back to her and say, "Hey, we did it." Like that was pretty powerful. So I just
Wow.
sobbed uncontrollably. And as far as, celebrating, I went to the table I was sitting at when I got a call from Don Martin that he was willing to meet with me. I was doing construction work. I was collecting unemployment part-time and doing construction work part-time, back well over a decade ago. And I remember getting a call from the number in my phone that I had is, the number to the station in Burbank, and it was Don Martin saying I'd be willing to meet with you. And I remember sitting in this corner booth. And so after I got the news a short time later, I went and I sat at that corner booth, and I just thought, Jesus, if you would have told me that sitting there and getting that call that all these years later I'd be sitting here now and I was going to get to host a national morning show, I would have never. That's beyond my wildest dreams. And I needed to complete that circle, and so that's what I did. So there wasn't much celebrating. It was more shock, awe,
Reflecting.
emotion, and all that.
Yeah, Jonas, that man, that is just crazy. Like how you went from like the bottom to the top, and I know you're hating this because you don't like the compliments, but I was really hoping you guys were gonna get it. You and Brady Sunday nights were one of my favorite shows to listen to on the weekends, and you and Bucky Brooks.
It's fun.
And then when I woke up and I saw the news that you got the job, right? And I'm like, I was so happy, like, because they get someone who like deserves a job, who deserves a full-time gig, who's grinding, busting like his balls to make ends meet, and he finally gets a job. I was super excited for you, man. This has been a super fun interview, Jonas. Can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast. If you want to follow Jonas, you can listen to his shows on any podcasting or on Fox Sports Radio from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. Pacific, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern, 2 pros and a cup of Joe, and then the weekend overnights, 11 to 3. Actually, no, just Saturday overnight or Friday, Saturday.
And I will be on this upcoming Saturday during the day from 7 to 9 Pacific time, 10 to noon Eastern time. So that'll be a little bit of a change. But listen, I told you this, and I'm not saying this to try and, ball wash you, as we like to say on the show, but I appreciate you having me. I appreciate everything that you do. And really appreciate you taking the time to even listen to the show, because without you guys, Fox Sports Radio doesn't exist. And without the listeners and without the people that call in or tweet us or any of that, we don't exist. So the fact that you would take time out of your day, which is just as important, your time as it is my time or anybody else's. Nobody's better than anybody here. The fact that you would take time out of your day to want to talk to me, some slappy who's, just.
I love that word, man. I use that to my friend, and he was so confused.
Well, because we want to say slapdick, but we can't.
You can't say it on the radio.
Yeah, I bet like Brady and I, like we've been pounding the table. Can we say slapdick? Can we say slapdick?
I bet Roberto would let you.
Oh my God! Well, yeah,
Roberto doesn't care.
He's a terrible gauge. Don't trust Roberto for anything. He's a terrible.
Don't trust Roberto or Lee, especially Lee.
Yeah, especially Lee. But no, listen. It's just this is pretty cool that you would even ask me to be a part of it, and I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Before you go though, I just have to shout out Lee DeLapp. I know we just ripped him, but he was the one who got me your email, got me the contact information for you to come on, and I can't thank him enough. So Lee, if you're listening, or Jonas, pass a message on to Lee. Really appreciate it, brother.
Absolutely. And he's and listen, that's a guy who grinded just as hard, if not harder, than I did. He was delivering pizzas part-time and interning there, and you always knew when Lee was interning, because there'd be a giant pizza box that said Mulberry's Pizza sitting in the kitchen. But no, Lee's awesome. He's fantastic. He's another one of those guys that makes us all sound way better than we actually do. Like they're the makeup, and we just, they roll us out there, and we try not to get everybody fired. So no, it's fantastic.
Yeah, man, it was super fun having you. This is going to wrap it for this part of the podcast. I'm going to do solo picks by myself. See you, Jonas. And now we head over to the NFL side of things, where we're going to be picking some games, previewing Week 13. I want to start out with this, though. Adrian Peterson signing with the Seahawks. What are my thoughts? It doesn't mean anything. All right? It doesn't mean a thing. AP is not that good. Yes, the Seahawks need a running back. I'm saying I will say that. But AP, he's going to be there for 1 year. He's not the long-term answer. I think the point of the signing is just for the Seahawks to try and maybe try and pull something off. I really think that's the main goal that they're trying to do here. Emmett Douglas, Blindside Sports. Follow me on Twitter, Emmett Nosey 04. Follow me on Instagram, Emmett Nosey. Follow the show, Blindside Pod 11. Hope you're having a good day. I'm having a pretty good one. Why don't we jump into some NFL picks now? I feel like this week there isn't like a bunch of good games. We have some, but Eagles or not Eagles, sorry. Cowboys Saints is our Thursday night game. Saints have been lackluster on offense. It should be a pretty easy game for the Cowboys, even if Zeke is out. I think Tony Pollard could carry it, and even if CD Lamb is out, I think that's who's out. I'm not worried about the Cowboys at all because the Saints are just that bad. Like they don't really have the guy, especially with like Jameis Winston being hurt. So I'm gonna take the Cowboys 27, Saints 16. It could be a worse game. I don't really know, but yeah, that's my pick. The Sunday night game is Broncos at Chiefs. This is gonna be a good game. I feel like because the Broncos have a good defense. Overall, if we're talking offensively, I think the Chiefs are the way better team. So overall, I'm gonna take the Chiefs in this one. 27, Broncos 17. I feel like it's like the right game to get flexed into Sunday night, and then Monday night, I'm excited for this one. Bills Patriots. You have Josh Allen, who's kind of been struggling as of late, versus Mac Jones in the hot New England Patriots. They have been on it. They have been on it. I don't know where to pick, but the Bills have they got creamed by the Colts. Patriots are riding hot. I'm gonna pick the Patriots 34. Buffalo 31. All right. It's gonna be a good game, gonna be a nail biter. Expect to come down to the final minutes. This is probably the best game of the week. I believe I wholeheartedly believe that. 3 out of 13 games picked. Seahawks at or 49ers at the Seattle Seahawks in this one. If you want me to be real, Seahawks are losing, and I think it's gonna be a blowout. Niners are hot. The Seahawks are stinking like Abe Lincoln. They absolutely suck. There's no hope. Niners 34, Seahawks 14. The offense can't convert for anything. So I'm taking the Niners to win. Texans Colts is gonna be a good one. Not Colts 31, Texans 14. Jets and Eagles is gonna be like one of those like certified like stinker games, I believe. But I will take the Eagles 21 and the Jets 14. It's just hard. Like last week, I picked the Eagles to go insane. I was wrong. Raiders at Washington is going to be an interesting one. If the Raiders can pick it up, Washington didn't have the best offensive performance against a really crappy beat down Seattle Seahawks. So overall, I'm actually going to take the Raiders to win this 27 to 19. Derek Carr has got the upper hand. We got Josh Jacobs, and that secondary is not very good for Washington. So look for Derek Carr to actually have like a decent game for once, and I'll take the Raiders. Lions Vikings. I will take the Vikings 31, Lions 10. Blowout city. Chicago Bears.
The Bears take on the Cardinals on Sunday.
Bears Cardinals looking like Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins should be back. It's going to be interesting to see how that works as they've both been out for a while. So I will take the I'll take the Cardinals 21, Bears 16. Holding my I would go up like a higher score on the Cardinals end. I just don't know what Kyler Murray is going to look like. Hold on. I don't know what Kyler Murray is going to look like. So that was a super weird sound. There was like a in my headphone. I don't know what that was. Interesting. But Kyler Murray is gonna I just don't know what he's gonna look like because he's been out for a while, but who knows what his injury situation is. So I'm gonna take the Cardinals by 5. Steelers Ravens in this late window. I'm a little worried about Lamar Jackson. I think it's gonna be a low scoring game in favor of the Ravens, 16-10. Big Ben looked awful last week. Lamar Jackson looked awful last week, even worse than Big Ben. But the Browns were even worse, like I said last week. So I'll take that. Why don't we go over to let's see. I did all the games. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Oh, they're the Falcons. Yeah.
Buccaneers barely prevailed over the
Atlanta Falcons, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
The Falcons take on the Buccaneers on Sunday at 10 a.m.
Falcons, Buccaneers, easy one. Buccaneers 31. Falcons 7. It's gonna be a blowout. I'm calling it right here. Lions at the Vikings, where I picked that. Chargers at Bengals. Los Angeles Chargers.
The Chargers lost to the Broncos.
Chargers week 13. I think it's the Bengals. I'm just making sure.
The Chargers face the Bengals on Sunday at 10 a.m.
Chargers, Bengals. This should be a good one. I have a feeling Herbert's could come back on the bounce back week. And Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon have been hot. So this is actually an under the radar low key game in this one. Expect both offenses to be hot. Not much defense being played. 37-31. Chargers. No. 30. Give me the Bengals. Screw it. At that same score. Give me the Bengals. Give me the Bengals. This has been Blindside Sports. Those are my picks. Do them as you please. Follow me on Twitter, MNOC04. Follow the show, Blindside Pod 11. Follow me on Instagram, MNOC. Hope you guys enjoyed that podcast. The first part was with Jonas Knox. This part was with myself. I don't have any interviews planned. It might be a solo podcast next week, or I might book someone. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Emmett Douglas, Blindside Sports. Thank you so much for watching this podcast. Peace out, boys.